Hello, my friends, and welcome to What's Up. We come to you every 2 weeks like this with an unstructured, unanticipated conversation between Greg, Braden, and myself about whatever happens to come to mind. This is a derivative and a byproduct of some long automobile ride conversations that we thought might be useful and interesting to other people. And so, hi, Greg.
Hey, John, it's good to see you. I appreciate the opportunity to come together for this completely unscripted, unstructured conversation. And yeah, well, just so there's no mystery here, when I come to Berkeley Springs to speak, John usually comes himself to pick me up at the airport. He doesn't send, a taxi or anything. And we've got that drive from the Dulles Airport into Berkeley Springs to cover a lot of ground, and we have done that a number of times. And we were sharing that with somebody, and they said, wow, I'd love to be a fly in the cab of the truck or have a
Right.
camera in there. And we thought, well,
Right.
let's just do it. So here we are.
No,
So
I
John,
don't.
we began a conversation yesterday with our quartet group, um, and there were, by the nature of the program, we can only cover so much content.
Yeah.
What would be the implications of the loss of America if America disappears within the next few years, as the computer models and the simulations are predicting from,
Yeah.
from
Yeah. I've just returned, as you know, from Martin Armstrong's conference down in Orlando and sat and listened to him for the better part of 3 days.
wow.
And he is really quite definitive in saying that all the indicators of his system are saying that the United States breaks up in less than 5 years. And so yesterday we were talking about what would be what would you do? What would that mean? That's a really big deal.
Well, and we had a good conversation with Penny and Kingsley yesterday. But there was another perspective that I didn't get to talk about, and that's what I'd like to do with you
Okay.
today. And again, this completely unscripted. I personally, I think it would be very sad
Well, of
for a number
course.
of reasons, and one of those reasons is because of what America itself represents. And I'm getting, just like everyone else is, we're getting a lot of information, people that believe that America has become obsolete, Constitution's obsolete, we've outgrown, the vision of the founders and all of that. And because of that, they are really pushing for a remake. So I'm a scientist. I like data. I like facts. I like to go
Yeah.
back to the beginning. And what I have to say, John, is that something happened uh, in this nation, to form this nation, that has never happened anywhere on the face of the earth in the history of civilization, of human civilization that we know of. And I think for many people, they've lost sight of what that is. And it is a perspective of our relationship to the universe itself. And the reason I say I believe it's sad is because when the framers of the Constitution, when they put the Constitution together, the Declaration and then the Constitution to support it, we were given freedoms that are so extraordinary. And unfortunately, we have a generation of young people that have benefited to such a degree they believe they are common and that everybody always has and will always have these freedoms. And the sadness comes from knowing that if America ever allows us to lose the idea of America, and I'm going to make a distinction between the idea and the implementation. The implementation of America right now is flawed, and we can talk about that. The idea is so rare and precious. If we ever lose this, John, I seriously doubt that any nation on the face of the earth will ever give to everyday people the freedoms that have been afforded
Hmm.
as American citizens. And it's those very freedoms that are allowing the country to implode upon itself because people have the freedom to say what they want to say, whether it's true or not. And we have a population that has not been educated in what America really means for a couple of generations now. Well, I'm just going to say I'm a strong Second Amendment supporter.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think I have friends that believe that civilians should have everything the military has. I don't believe that necessarily,
Yeah,
but
right.
I do believe that since the dawn of time, every human has had and should have the right to take care of themselves and their families in the face of danger on a
Right.
personal level. And so when I talk to young people that come to our programs and they say, "Well, what's the big deal about that? Other countries have the equivalent of Second Amendment rights. Here's the difference." And they say the governments of other countries they let their people have firearms, for example. That's the difference. In the Constitution of the United States, our founders stated that the government cannot give us those rights because they are inalienable
Yeah.
rights that are ours by virtue of living and breathing as a
Right.
biological being on this planet. So our government didn't give us the right. Our government can't take it away. And you saw places like Canada, places like Australia, New Zealand, throughout Europe. We have this conversation. They say, "Well, our government has taken those rights away," and this is just one example. America can only be lost if Americans allow it to be lost. And there is such a pervasive thinking that's being perpetuated now in the mainstream that America has become obsolete. And I think we owe it to ourselves as a nation to really, really refresh our memories as to what it is that we were given before we let it slip away. Because once it's gone, no nation will ever grant us what we have in this
Yeah.
country right now.
I agree with you very much on the kind of the preamble part of this. Like you, I've traveled a great deal across this world and seen how other people live and been able to compare that with our country. And it's really quite different. I mean, there's an interesting example in Australia, for instance. It turns out to be the case almost everywhere in the world, is that if you fly, if you're a pilot like I am, in these other countries, they have a list of things that say, uh, this is what you can do, and this is all you can do. In the United States, it's written that says you can do anything that you want to do, except for these few things, which are the rules that say to keep everybody kind of going the same way. And so it's there's this fundamental kind of difference, as you suggest, in Second Amendment terms, but also in lots of other areas in the same kind of way. Let me tell you, I mean, I've spent 29 years in and around the military and other such things. And so I have a deep appreciation for this country. And I've, exposed myself to lots of kind of crazy things because of the way I felt about this place and those principles and those freedoms. But I have watched over the last, I don't know, 20 years at least, a fundamental, as you're alluding to it, a fundamental erosion of those freedoms. The problem is a bigger one, and it almost seems to me like it's been an orchestrated, kind of systematic effort over time to erode and change the kind of the fundamentals, the fabric of what it is to be a human. I mean, you got a whole generation of people, in particular universities and other kinds of places, that will not let you have free speech if they don't like what you think and so on. And so, and you wonder, how in the world did you get there? And
Yeah.
you can lose your job if you don't agree that there's 72 different kind of genders or something. I mean, it's it's really quite different than what it used to be, which frankly moved me from being a Democrat to being an independent, because
Yeah.
the whole system seems to have morphed into something different.
Well, I agree, John, and this is where I come back to this. It's the idea of America that was unprecedented. It's so rare, so special, and so precious. We've gotten away from the idea now to a
Yeah.
flawed implementation, and it happened gradually. It's kind of like the frog in the water. At first, little something would shift here, a little something there, and people would kind of ignore it. And now it's not the same country, and I'm not the only one that thinks this way. And I'm going to share this very candidly. I won't mention any names, but I do travel a lot, and I've just spent some time in Europe, both Eastern and Western Europe. Same thing happened publicly. Now, this is what's so interesting. Publicly, my European friends, they come out and they're very boastful of European supremacy. They say America is no longer number one. It's Europe's turn now. Europe is going to lead. Then we go to dinner at night, and they're drinking beer. I'm drinking my green tea. And what they say to me confidentially is they look at me square in the eyes and they say, "Please don't f this up, America,"
Yeah.
because
Right.
the world, at least for now. Now this isn't forever. But at least for now, the world, what they say to me is that the world needs a strong America
Yeah.
to preserve the idea that the rest of the world can aspire to. And if that idea evaporates in this place, it's never going to happen anywhere again.
Mm.
People want another generation. People will forget it. They're forgetting it. Our young people are right now.
Yeah.
So when I hear things like that, John, and I believe, as you and I have talked about many times, we will have a world where maybe we don't need this. It doesn't have to be broken into boundaries and nations and things. But in the world of chaos that we have now, it's
Yeah.
the idea that was put forth by our founders, who were deeply spiritual men. I think there were 53 framers, 56, 13 of those were Freemasons.
Yeah.
And in the Masonic traditions, they drew upon deeply spiritual principles that transcended the political ideals of the time. And that was the revolution. That was a very different way of
Oh
thinking.
yeah, it was amazing, amazing thing that they did. I've thought about it a great deal about how profound the whole Constitution and how well thought out and how enlightened one would have to be to kind of come to those kinds of conclusions. Thank you, my friend. Always fun to chat with you like this. And for all of you nice people who are watching, we appreciate it. And we hope that you'll come back and be with us again in a couple of weeks when we get together again and kind of say, what's up? And you'll find out plenty of other kind of things about what we're doing here at the Arlington Institute at arlingtoninstitute.org. We've got a number of other projects that we're involved with, and Greg kindly a part of all of those, and all of them oriented toward trying to make sense out of this extraordinary, unprecedented change that we're all looking at. So thanks so much. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks,
See you.
John, for the opportunity to have this conversation. Everybody working behind the scenes. Teresa, thanks for helping us out today. Take good care.